Happy Wednesday, ladies and gents. Thanks for joining us. We are here, Instagram and Facebook Live, waiting for my friend Aja to join us right now. She's going to be talking about Bay Area real estate. We want to get her insights on what's happening in San Francisco, in the East Bay, Silicon Valley, what the differences are between how transactions are done here in Southern California versus the Bay Area. And you'll learn a lot today. Aja is a pro. I met her through the National Rethink Council for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And she's a shining star, great attitude. She knows a lot about her business. And I really like her videos online too. She does a fantastic job of engaging with people. So it's fun stuff. Let me see here. Where is Aja at? Let's get her online right now. Go. Let's try this again. Let's get her online. So we don't really do a lot of Q&As here, but you guys can all ask inside the question, the comments area. And here she is, the lady of the day. Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm so well. How are you, Vic?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us. I'm getting my little Bluetooth headset on here to make sure that I can hear you correctly, and we're all
Perfect.
good in that regard. You can hear me fine, right?
I can hear you great. I'm trying out a little mic for this. I haven't used this before. How's my sound? Does it sound okay?
You sound good to me. And for the people who are
Okay.
watching live right now, give us some thumbs up, give us some claps if you can hear Aja, okay? We only have 7 people on right now. Hopefully we get about 700 because they're all here to see you.
Oh, I
I
love
heard,
that. Yeah, bring them
yeah.
on.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Happy Wednesday. I do appreciate you taking some time out of your lunch to sit with us and talk about how the business is and what's going on in your marketplace, right? So, that said, I want to respect your time. And for those people who are online with us right now and going to watch the video afterwards, Aja, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Give us your background in real estate. How'd you get into the business? What marketplace do you serve? All that good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd be happy to. First of all, thanks so much, Vic, for hosting this. I'm so glad to be here today. What a great idea. So thanks for having me. My name's Aja Adair. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Drysdale Properties, which covers Northern California and also parts of Reno, Nevada. Specifically, I work out of the Bay Area, so San Francisco, and then also parts of the East Bay. I had an interesting route into real estate. I was a teacher prior to being a realtor. I taught special education
Oh,
for San Francisco Unified School District. I taught third, fourth, and fifth grade. And before being a teacher, I was a classroom aide. So that was kind of my world for 10 years was the special education world, which is a really tight knit family. And I loved what I did quite a bit. But when the pandemic happened, I was teaching in San Francisco, teaching students with pretty complex support needs. We transitioned to Zoom, which if you have a young one at home, maybe you remember that experience of the Zoom learning. It was a challenge, especially for my population. I was feeling a little burnt out emotionally, advocating for my students, loved the students, loved the families, hated the system sometimes. And I started to think about I'm loving working from home and I have a little time on my hands teaching Zoom. Let me get my real estate license. I have a mom who's a realtor as well, so that helps to have it in the family.
so you're
And
you're second generation then. You're second generation in the business.
that's right. I'm a second gen agent. My mom's also with Berkshire Hathaway Drysdale. She's top 4 in our company, so she is a powerhouse and an awesome mentor.
Go mom.
Yeah. She's incredible. She might be watching. Hi, Mom. And so I had a great role model, got my license during the pandemic, made the switch, and it's been an awesome transition for me. I've been top 5% of Berkshire Hathaway last 2 years, and I also ranked nationally ever since my first year in real estate. And a part of that is having a great mentor, but I also think teachers make awesome agents. We're organized and we're helpful and we're caring, and that really helps in this business. So it's been a great transition and I love what I do.
I can totally see that. I did not know you were a teacher previous to your career in the real estate industry, but knowing you a little bit and getting to meet with you and talk with you in the National Rethinking Council, I can see you being an educator. My mom is in education as well, and when I was going to school at Cal State East Bay, I was going to be an educator. So we're right, we do very well in this real estate industry because aren't we educating our clients, right? And our
Yes,
associates and our colleagues, right?
big time.
And sometimes the clients that we deal with, correct me if I'm wrong, just my perspective, but we gotta really hold their hand like they're little kids sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
not all the
Sometimes.
time.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure that
Absolutely.
we,
I love first time buyers. And I think that absolutely speaks to that, especially this generation of first time buyers, millennials, make up a huge percentage of that population. They're well informed and they want to really understand every step of the process. And so it's very involved. And I would absolutely say you're right on that. A lot of hand holding, a lot of teaching.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of educating people. I think the difference here is, we educate people on their options, and then ultimately they make their decision, right? So
Yes.
that's unique. So I know that you serve the Bay Area. Now, I'm familiar with the East Bay. I went to college there in East Bay. What market? Well, what's your average price point in your market, Asia?
Yeah. So I'll focus more on San Francisco today, just for ease of our conversation. Of course, it's
Sure.
very area specific. I was born in San Francisco, grew up in the East Bay, which is why I serve both markets, lived in San Francisco for a long time, recently moved back to the East Bay, but very familiar with both markets. Today we'll focus more on San Francisco, but I also serve Berkeley, Oakland, Walnut Creek, those East Bay markets as well, so
Yeah.
Contra Costa and Alameda counties.
Yeah.
But in San Francisco specifically, there are two markets really. You have your single family home market and your condo market. So, looking at this year, for single family homes, the median list price is around 1.5. Median sale price is a little over 1.7, 1.75. For condos, the median list price is 1.2 million, and median sale price is just over that, 1.225 million. So single family homes in our market are priced anywhere from 10 to 20% under where they eventually sell, and condos tend to be priced more transparently. But if you've ever been to San Francisco, there are many diverse neighborhoods and they all are
Yes.
their own unique markets. So I'm talking averages. It varies a lot depending on where in the city you're looking.
You mean that that price point for a condo in the Tenderloin is not going to be the same thing as it's going to be in the Presidio? What?
No,
It's not
not
going to be the same thing
quite.
as Russian Hill? Come
Not
on.
quite. Yeah, and as someone who's lived in the Tenderloin myself for a brief period of time, yep, I can speak to that market. Pacific Heights is going to be really different from Bayview, is going to be different from the Mission, is going to be different from Chinatown. So huge vary, but that at least gives you a rough ballpark average of what our
Yeah.
pricing is like.
You just said the Mission right now, and my mind automatically went to Pancho Villa's Tacos right there. I
Yum.
love that place, by the way.
Mm,
We're going to hear a little bit more
okay.
about your favorites in San Francisco in a bit. So average price point right now for a single family home in the city. And by the way, for those of you watching, if you live in the Bay Area, the city is San Francisco. Okay. No,
Yes.
no, nowhere else. If you're inside the San Francisco city limits, we don't call it San Francisco, and please don't say Frisco, right? How does that make you feel when somebody says Frisco? You know they're out of towners.
You are 100% right. Don't call it Frisco. Even San Fran is a little questionable. It's the city, it's San Francisco. So, yeah, when you know, you know.
I, I, my Hellas and my Heckas come out every once in a while. I was in the Bay Area for almost 4 years,
I
and
didn't know
you
you
know,
were East Bay. That's so cool.
I went there when it was Hayward. It was not even Cal State East Bay, right? So pioneers, yay, right? But
Woo!
yeah, so hella hecka, it's in my vocabulary. For my friends in LA watching, and you're San Francisco 49ers fans, you just heard it. Do not call it San Fran. Do not call it, Frisco. It's the city, right? And anyways, something totally different there, my friend. Let's jump into another question here. Now, San Francisco is an amazing city. It's an amazing town. The whole Bay Area is lovely. Honestly, Asia, I probably would have never moved back had my parents not been here in LA. Otherwise, I love living up there in the Bay. It was fantastic. Very diverse, very cultural, great food, good, lots of fun stuff to do. What are some of the things for somebody who has never visited San Francisco before? What are some of the key things that would drive somebody to live in the city and in the Bay Area as a whole?
Yeah, great question. And I love how well you know the Bay and that you loved it so much living here. That's so cool. I'm actually helping the provost of Cal State East Bay find a new home. He's relocating here, so that is just such a small world, and so cool that you went there. In terms of attractions within San Francisco, there are many, and many of them are very well known. You've got the Golden Gate Bridge, which I think is one of the most photographed bridges in the world, and there are some awesome viewpoints to see it from. Baker Beach is a beach that's in the northern part of the city and has an awesome view of the Bay Bridge, or of the Golden Gate Bridge, rather. That is a beautiful place to stop. Golden Gate Park is
Mhm.
also a really awesome place, and it's huge. I think it's over 100 acres. And you can see the Japanese tea garden within there. There's the De Young Museum, which is such a fun stop. So you could spend days in Golden Gate Park, seriously. There's some annual events that happen in San Francisco. We've got our Outside Lands Music Festival that you're probably familiar with. So that's a lot of fun. There's the Cherry Blossom Festival in Japantown. So there's a ton going on in the city. I'd say tourist wise, you've probably heard of Alcatraz. I actually have never done Alcatraz, which I think there are other locals who are like me who are just like, it's a tourist attraction. I haven't ever done it. But everyone I've met who has done it says it's well worth it. And what a cool way to see the city. Get out there on a ferry on the water.
Yeah.
There's lots of sailing in the bay as well, and that's a really beautiful way to see the city. So those are some of the attractions, but you can never spend just one day in San Francisco. There's a lot going on here.
I agree. I highly agree. There's a lot to do in the city and the surrounding area. It's really fun, and that's what attracts a lot of people there. Now, if somebody is thinking about relocating there, right, moving from LA or moving from New York, moving from anywhere in the world to San Francisco, what are some of the things that they really should know about, like the schools, the transportation, the industries, the places where people earn capital? I mean, we all know the Bay Area is Silicon Valley Central, right? Like a lot of tech
Yeah.
there. What are some things that somebody relocating should know? The good things and maybe the not so good things about the
Yeah.
city.
No, I'll be totally transparent. The first thing that comes to mind is cost of living here is high. I work with a lot of people who are relocating to San Francisco from out of state, and sometimes they're selling their home, and sometimes they're selling a 4,000 square foot, very large home with a very large yard, and what they're getting for that in the market that they're moving from, they may be looking at condos within San Francisco. So it's
Right?
definitely an adjustment. It's not just property value, it's also just cost of living in San Francisco is high. Go out for a salad, try to find a salad for under 25 bucks. It's tough to do. Food, parking, Having a car in the city can be pricey. If you're purchasing a new construction condo and you want parking, that's going to tack 100K onto your sales price. And parking in the city, just for the day, can be very expensive. $40 and up. So that's
Yeah.
something to think about. There is tons of public transportation in San Francisco, but you want to be prepared and be sure that you're budgeting accordingly. Um, Second point, you asked about schools. For public schools in San Francisco, to create equity, it's not always the neighborhood you live in is automatically where your child's going to go to school. There is some preference and spots held for homes, people who live in close proximity to a given school. But then they also do have a lottery system to try to make it so that students in different neighborhoods have access, equal access to schools that may range in terms of their performance. So that's something to be aware of if you have kids and that's really important to you, where your kids go into school. It's not so cut and dry necessarily.
Hmm.
And then
That's
maybe,
very interesting. I didn't
yeah,
know that they had a lottery for schools. Is
it's
it
the
the entire
same.
city, or is it just maybe certain neighborhoods with highly, rated schools where
Yep.
everybody just tries to clamor in?
The entire city, yeah. So of course, parents will have an opportunity to rank which school, like give their top five choices, and schools try to accommodate to their best. But if there is a really high performing school that tons of people are putting as choice number one, there's only a certain number of seats available. So it's a whole confluence of factors, like do you have an older sibling who goes there? How close do you live? Where was it ranked? And so it's a whole formula. It can be a little stressful for parents who are trying to guarantee their kid a spot in a certain school.
Yeah,
Oakland Unified is actually the same way, and then it's to promote equity. So, as having been a teacher in San Francisco, I can speak to families can stress out about this certainly. And then I would say there are so many different neighborhoods in San Francisco. You could break them down. They all have their own unique vibe, their own price point when you're looking at real estate, their own microclimate. You could drive 10 minutes in the city and be, in the sunset where it's quite foggy, and drive to North Beach and all of a sudden it's a really warm, sunny day. So everything has its own microclimate. And I think if you're relocating here, it's really hard to get a feel for which neighborhood might feel like it resonates with you most unless you've actually spent some serious time here. So, if you're
yeah.
able to rent temporarily or really, dedicate some time to spend in the city for your house hunting trip, you'll get the best results about finding, where in the city really matches your vibe.
I got you. It's two things that you said. Number one, garages, parking. Like when I was there,
Yeah.
you knew somebody was balling out of control if they had a garage. Like, wow, you have a garage you can park your car in. I don't know if this is still true or not, but back when I was there 20 years ago, okay, it was a big thing. They actually had more cars registered to the city limits than they actually had parking
Mhm.
spaces. They did the math,
I
and they're
believe
like,
that.
we don't have the space for it. Second thing you said to me was the
Mhm.
microclimate, and you're 100% right. Anywhere in San Francisco, you need to take a coat. Even in the summertime, you don't know what the
Layer.
weather's gonna do. Yeah, you layer it up. There it is. I like
Mhm.
that. So you gave us some good insights. So learning right now about the lottery system, I
Mhm.
didn't know anything about that. Let's talk about the real estate process,
Yeah.
because it is different up there than what we have here in Los Angeles. I mean, we are an escrow state here in California, but tell me about your process. What's different there that's unique that might stand out in
Yeah.
comparison to other parts of the country?
Great question. So, thinking about San Francisco's real estate, something to be aware of is with condos here in the city, there are different kinds of forms of ownership that exist here in San Francisco. We have something called tenancy in common, which is pretty unique, I think, to San Francisco. You'll see some in Oakland and Berkeley as well, but it's similar to a condo. Rather than taking ownership as you would a condo or a single family home, you also take you you instead take ownership of a percentage of the building. So say it's a 3-unit building in the city and it's a TIC instead of a condo, tenants in common, you'd be purchasing 33% of it. Say they're all the same size. You'd be purchasing 33% of the building as a whole rather than taking ownership of your specific unit. It functions very similarly to a condo. You know, they have CC&Rs just like you would a condo. There's a tenancy in common agreement. They tend to be a little bit more affordable when compared to condos, just because this form of ownership, they're usually self-managed with it by the owners of the building in terms of the HOA. You may not have a big management company who's overseeing it. So there are some pros and cons to TIC as a form of ownership, but it's something a lot of people aren't familiar with until they start condo shopping in the city. Another thing
Interesting.
I would mention, yeah, it is. And in the past, you know, historically, you weren't able to get fractional financing on a TIC, so all the owners were on the same loan. That's no longer the case. Now, you know, you can get fractional financing, so it functions a lot more like a condo because condos command more in the market. Sometimes TIC buildings, you know, want to become condos, and there is a pathway to do that. For 2-unit buildings, it's pretty simple. You can do it for buildings that are 6 units and below, and it's a great way to add value. But there is an investment there in terms of making that transition. There are some
Yeah.
inspections involved, and only a certain number of buildings are approved for it annually. For single family homes, if you've ever been in San Francisco, you see our beautiful Victorian Edwardian architecture. But depending on where you're looking, there are many homes that are on 0 lot lines that are attached structures. So your walls are attached to your neighbor's walls. So
Yeah.
when you're looking in San Francisco, you'll see completely detached single home structures. And then in some cases, you're seeing partially attached on one side, or fully attached. And so that's something to be aware of, that's how our buildings are constructed on our crazy hills and with our earthquakes.
I hear. Yeah.
um,
I hear you.
and just a couple point of sale inspections that are unique to San Francisco. Sellers provide what's called a 3R report, which looks at the whole permitting history for a building. So you can see work that's been done there since we have a lot of really old architecture in the city, early 1900s. So you can look at the building's history. And then there's water and energy efficiency inspection that's done as well. But then beyond that, it's, you know, home, pest, roof, what you see in other markets.
Are you guys still putting disclosures up? Sorry about that. I had a little glitch
Okay,
here on my screen. Are you guys
that's not
still
me.
giving disclosures up front right away before they write the offer? Is
Great
that kind of how
question.
it's working in the city?
Yes. So our single family market especially is so competitive. Oftentimes single family homes, as I said, are going up to 20%, sometimes more. I
Yep.
saw a single family home in the Sunset that was priced with a teaser price at 699 and ended up going over 1.2. So sometimes pricing is just teasers. But when you
Yep.
have 15 offers on a home, sellers want to know that who they're going into contract with, negotiations have already taken place, and they're accepting an offer that's not going to, you know, be renegotiated in the future. So we have a history of disclosing everything up front, you know, all the home, pest, roof inspection, if there's an HOA, all of the HOA docs, all of the seller disclosures, so that buyers can, you know, really do their due diligence prior to making the offer and really write an as-is offer. It's very hard to get a contingent offer accepted when you're in a competitive situation in San
Yeah,
Francisco.
I understand that. Same thing here in Los Angeles. You know, the more contingencies you have, the less likelihood you're going to get your offer accepted because the sellers are looking for certainty.
Yeah,
They want to accept your offer and they don't want it to fall out.
right.
So that makes complete sense. We have some people here in Los Angeles who do the same thing. They submit all the disclosures and inspection reports up front before you know even write an offer. It'll be on the MLS as a downloadable PDF, right? We call those supplemental docs with the MLS
Mhm.
listing. And I also remember when I was an assisting up there that the way escrow works in the Bay, correct me if it's changed, but I remember escrow wouldn't do any of the escrow instructions until the last week of the deal because they didn't want to do any of the amendments and changes. Whereas here in Los Angeles, escrow instructions are done right away. And then they make a bunch of amendments towards the end. Is that still the case, or have they altered it a little bit in the past 20 years?
Yeah, so sellers often open a pre-escrow in our market, so that it's really seamless once you're in contract. If the buyer, of course, it's the buyer's choice who they decide to do escrow with, but many buyers just opt for ease and go with whoever the sellers open pre-escrow with, and right away, everything's.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
different. You
Is
guys are,
it?
the buyers are controlling the escrow company. Is that usually the
Legally,
case?
yes.
Okay.
Legally, the buyer, the seller's not supposed to tell a buyer who to do escrow with. That's, negotiable, and a buyer puts it in their contract. Oftentimes, because, if you're working with something where there's the HOA docs are often ordered through escrow by
Yeah.
the escrow
Yeah.
officer. So for a seller who wants to have everything on the table, they'll open a pre-escrow, and then to honor, the escrow agent who's already done a lot of work on the file in some cases,
Yeah.
they'll share the pre-escrow information so a buyer can make a choice about whether they just want to continue with who the pre-escrow is open by. Yeah.
Yeah, that's different than what we do down here in Asia. Here in LA, normally the buyer defers to the seller. In the contract, we put seller's choice, right?
Mm.
So a little bit different, and not all escrows are opened up front. But you guys, speaking of contracts, we here in Los Angeles, most of the time, I'd say all the county really, we're using CAR contracts. In the city, you guys aren't using CAR contracts, right?
Yeah.
You guys have a San Francisco purchase agreement, which is completely different.
Yes, San Francisco likes to be unique. This is the same when I was a teacher in San Francisco. It's like you have all the California standards, and then there's the San Francisco standards, and
Yeah.
like we have our own little ways of doing it. San Francisco purchase agreement is very similar to the California purchase agreement. It's a little shorter, less pages. It's a little more streamlined. There's not who pays for what in terms of the allocation of cost is pretty much defined by the San Francisco purchase agreement, whereas in the California residential purchase agreement, there's a little more opportunity for negotiations there, though of course there are, standards across markets. So, yep, we do have our own purchase agreement, and sometimes sellers and listing agents in San Francisco request it on the San Francisco contract, or if they're an agent that covers multiple markets, they may say, California purchase agreement is fine.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah.
The stark differences in the way you guys do business and the way we do business, and we're in the same state, right? So very, very
We're not too
unique.
far. Yep.
And not too far. It's a 40-minute plane ride. So, like, I love that we're sharing this information with
Yeah.
our audience because there is a difference. One of our friends was talking about sending referrals, up and down the state of California and said, well, I can just fly up to Oakland and do a deal. And then said, your license is good in the state of California, but you're not good in the state of California. You don't know what's going on up there and how they operate. So it is very different, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. Before we wrap it up, let me ask you. I've lived in the city, for a while, been a minute, but for somebody who's never visited San Francisco before, if they had one day, perfect weather, okay, it doesn't matter what type of year it is, because in San Francisco the weather is all over the place, but it's perfect weather. What would you recommend them to do with 24 hours in the city?
Okay. I love this question, and they're like, it's so hard to limit it to one day. But I guess if a perfect day in the morning, I would start in Golden Gate Park, walk through the Japanese tea garden, maybe, visit the De Young Museum there. Then I would head for lunch in North Beach, which is kind of like the Italian, I'm Italian, so
Yeah.
the Italian neighborhood in San Francisco. It's also quite close to Chinatown, so you could get your both fix, some Italian food and some Chinese food, but we have great cioppino, seafood. We're on the ocean. So go to North Beach for some cioppino for lunch. Then maybe, you're full. Oh,
What's the restaurant in North Beach? What's the restaurant in North Beach?
Soto Mare is my favorite in North Beach for seafood. It's a little more upscale, but then we have Tony's Pizza. He's like a world famous, so many different types of pizza. He's competed in Italy. So depending on how bougie you want to be, you could go to Tony's
Yeah.
too. And then maybe head to the
Bougie or a
Mission,
budget?
hit Dolores. Oh, sorry, you cut off there. What did you say, Vic?
I said you either got a bougie lunch or you got a budget lunch. Either way is going to be good
Right.
in the North Beach area.
And San Francisco, I'd never use the word budget. You've got bougie or bougier, I guess.
Bougie or bougie?
um, yes. And then maybe head to the Mission, chill at Dolores Park, get some ice cream at Buy Right. That's like our what's your fancy Erewhon grocery store? That's like the San
Uh,
Francisco Erewhon is our Buy
yeah.
Right. And then I'm big on theater, so maybe catching a play at the ACT at night.
Hmm. Okay, I like. Where are you going for dinner at night after the play?
Okay. Okay, I love the Castro for dinner. I think they have so many fun drink spots, and it's a really walkable, and it's pretty central, and it's got a really fun vibe, and it's just like so classic San Francisco. They have a really cool old school movie theater there too, where they like play an organ. I think it's being renovated right now, but maybe by the time you come, you can enjoy that piece of history in the Castro.
I love that. I love it. Asia, you've been so kind to share all this information with our audience today. For those of you who are looking to make a move to San Francisco, if you're looking to relocate there, if you're an agent watching this video and you need a relocation agent, somebody you can refer and trust to get the deals done, this is your gal right here, Aja Adair, Drysdale Real Estate out of Berkshire Hathaway in the Bay Area. Asia, thank you so much for your time today. You want to leave our audience with anything before we wrap this up for today?
I just want to say a huge thank you to you, Vic. Thanks so much for having me. It is such a pleasure chatting with you and learning about your East Bay roots. That's so cool. Thanks to everyone who watched. And if you need to reach me, you can always send me a text or schedule a link directly in my bio on my link tree.
I love it. Thank you so much, Asia. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for your help and your insights. You heard it here, Aja Adair, San Francisco Bay Area Real Estate. Give her a ring when you need a pro in the marketplace. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Asia.
Thanks
Have
so
a great
much.
one.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.